AWS and CNBC TV18.com present Leading in the Digital Era.
Hello and welcome to AWS and CNBC TV18.com present Leading in the Digital Era. The financial services landscape in India is at a pivotal juncture. As digital transformation reshapes the way banking and financial institutions operate, legacy systems must also evolve to keep pace with the demands of an increasingly tech-savvy consumer base. From AI-driven personalization to cloud-powered agility, the industry is undergoing a paradigm shift, one that blends innovation with compliance, speed with security, and scale with efficiency. So today, we're joined by two experts who have been instrumental in shaping this new era of financial services. Ramesh Lakshminarayanan, who is the Chief Information Officer and Group Head of IT at HDFC Bank, and Kiran Jagannath, who is the Head of Financial Services and Conglomerates at AWS India. And together, they are going to discuss the critical need for rewriting the legacy for financial services in India, evolving digital strategies, the role of AI and cloud technologies, and what the future really holds for banking in India. On that note, gentlemen, thank you very much for your time here and for being with us. Ramesh, I'll start with you because, the largest private sector bank, a 37.5 lakh crore plus balance sheet. How is your IT system keeping pace with the kind of volumes that you're handling every day?
We started the journey about 4.5 years back, with after the RBI embargo that we had to go through, and from there it's been a very remarkable journey in terms of looking at how the platforms are kind of built for scale. Fundamentally, I think what we have realized over the last 4.5 years is scale, reliability, observability are very key elements. So we looked at this in three boxes. To give you a background. One is, we said we'll run and grow, and we'll transform. And those three buckets have to be kind of independent. That's how we looked at the whole architecture. And then we have picked up things like we started initially with building reliability. How do you do quick, DR? How do you capacitize? And then we started kind of looking at cloud as a very, very foundational technology. Because it has the ability to scale elastically. It's kind of proven now, but 4.5 years back, we started with a very interesting concept called cloud landing zone in India. We're one of the first banks to do that with multi-cloud kind of an architecture. And what we started doing is we said we will hold the legacy architectures as good as we can, but at the same time, we started transforming, rewriting a lot of our applications onto the cloud, actually. And we used a very interesting strategy on the transformation side, which we call as the factory strategy, where we have a bunch of kind of, I would say, startup-like clusters in Bangalore, in Delhi, in Mumbai. We're going further deep as we speak. And we believe that these clusters of 100, 150 people with good engineering skills, they are the ones who can quickly transform. But at the same time, the run part of the bank is also done in a way that both of them work in a kind of harmonized way. So
these clusters are like your innovation centers for HDFC Bank?
They are actually not just innovation centers, they're actually the engineering factories, actually. And what we do is we're also kind of doing a lot of work to see how we can reutilize whatever we build in one place, we can use them in other areas as well. So it's not just creating an application, but like more than that, actually creating a capability.
But what you're working within that system is a tightly regulated one. Often, innovation happens very fast. Regulator has to play catch up, and there are guardrails within which you have to work. Has that been a bit of a challenge as you ensure compliance?
I think it is a kind of a myth. I think we've probably got one of the best regulatory frameworks. And I want to be very, very upfront about it, because if you see the way we have kind of navigated last 4.5 years, what are they saying? They are saying, you decide how you want to do it. You decide in a way that you believe this is right, and you protect a certain set of values that you want to do. And what we have seen is that as long as that construct is protected, and I'll give you an example, which is very interesting from a cloud perspective. When trying to bring the cloud into our ecosystem, the three foundational principles we looked at, saying, okay, will the cloud be localized in India? Yes. Will the cloud be, in a way that the jurisdiction can be defined in our favor? Third, just in case, and the jurisdiction point is critical, but just in case you have a situation where, let's say, two countries get into a sovereign issue, how do you solve? That has to be in your favor.
Yeah.
And the third part was, just in case if your data gets stolen or gets hacked, are you still going to be in control? And that's where we put up this unique landing zone concept, where interestingly what we do
like
is
a business continuity plan.
Yeah, and what we do here is very interesting. Just to give you a little background, the cloud is encrypted with keys that are sitting in the bank actually. They don't sit in the cloud. So it's like saying, okay, I have locked my house, but I've kept the key somewhere else. Okay, I'm not keeping the key under the mat or next to the, and that's the kind of construct we could put through. And it's kind of taken some time. There are a lot of other controls we had to put together. But that, for example, today has become a kind of I would say, reference point for many other banks to kind of follow. So I think the regulator is very pragmatic. And we have to work in a way that we take care of the basic framework. And cloud is a very good example. And I'm sure as we go along, discover AI and Gen AI, I think similar kind of, we do think that regulator is very forward-looking out here.
Kiran, he was speaking about, Ramesh, about moving to cloud. You work with several financial institutions to help them do just that. Has it been as easy as perhaps it has been for HDFC Bank, for other financial institutions to also get on that? Or, what are the challenges that Indian banks face today when moving to cloud?
At AWS, we offer the most secure cloud, and we're very proud of that. And that probably is because of our pedigree. We were the pioneers of the cloud. So as our CEO says, there's really no alternative to experience, right? So there's no compression algorithm for experience. And we have had a lot of experience in building this out. And secondly, and I'll talk about what we did with Ramesh and team as well, and because he alluded to it, there was a lot of focus on moving digital first. And a lot of those digital first initiatives naturally lent itself to happening on the cloud. So when HDFC Bank decided to build their digital first payments platform, so they worked with us and Zeta to launch their PayZapp application on the cloud. And similarly, they launched their digital card Pixel, and we're very proud of being associated with them, right? And what it did was, behind the scenes, it really, from an operational perspective, increased their capacity by about 10x, because they now could handle about 25,000 APIs per second.
Okay.
So that is what the scale that Ramesh is talking about, right? Like now you can scale these offerings very seamlessly on the cloud, which in an older paradigm was not as simple.
Okay.
And the second aspect of it was innovation, which is again something that Ramesh alluded to, right? I'm an ex-banker as well. And when I was in banking, innovation was not a matter of weeks or months. It was years by the time you took something to the market.
But that cycle has gotten a lot smaller now.
Exactly. Smaller and more affordable. Like you can really do it fast, and you can experiment a lot more because failure is not as expensive. Because on the cloud, you're really not starting off with a large capital investment to do any experiment. You start small. If it works, you scale up. If you don't, you shut down
quickly
and move on. So innovation is another one where really what we're helping with. And you asked specifically about the challenges. To do all of this, of course, the cloud first, very easy. But I think to bring some of these applications and make it more scalable, I think there's a lot of modernization efforts involved, which is where we've been helping customers like HDFC Bank and a lot of other customers through our own services, our own offerings, our architects, as well as through a whole host of partners we have within our ecosystem.
Well, you spoke about how AWS has been sort of the pioneer when it comes to the cloud technology, but the new buzzword these days, not so new anymore, has been generative AI. Where in the hype cycle really are we? Do you find use cases? How do you think it could reshape the industry? Are banks using it in a meaningful way already?
There are about 3 areas that we really see customers leveraging it. The first is, of course, chatbots. And chatbots not in the sense of just offering a chatbot to the customers, but how they interact with the chatbots, right? I mean, leveraging NLP and making voice a factor of interaction. You won't believe it because, sometimes we get caught up in the urban environment. But when you look at a payment ecosystem, and one of our customers who offers the payment product to a large set of merchants, and some of these merchants are not well versed with a whole bunch of these technologies. Now, they can just leave a voice message, something like, "Where is my payment?" and behind the scenes, an agentic model takes it over, figures out the solution, and it comes back in the same format which that person had interacted, which is a voice response back. So it's really making it easy for merchants and a lot of customers interact with their institutions. Productivity is another one, which is really, we see a lot of value.
Repetitive tasks.
Absolutely, especially in financial services, which has a whole bunch of documents. They're filled with a lot of documentation, right? So when you look at your financial advisors or underwriters and such, they pour through a whole bunch of documents that are in various formats, whether it is text, images, documents, and whatnot. So a lot of these are not value-added tasks. It is about bringing data together, summarizing it. Now, a lot of this quote-unquote grunt work, if you will, right? You can offload it to a generative AI model that can do all the summarization, go get all the information. So the folks who are actually looking at this data now can focus on the value-added task of utilizing it to truly delivering what they do, whether it's underwriting or advisory or whatnot. So that is clearly a second area where we are adding value through generative AI. And the third one is in terms of efficiencies. Again, simple things like one of the things that financial services, banks, insurers, everybody, they get inundated with a whole bunch of emails. Some are very mundane, some may be really a true problem some customers are facing. But these have to be responded to, right? So you can start with a bunch of people who are responding to these emails. Some probably can be done through rules, but others not so much. But that team itself can start becoming big as you grow the business, right? Now, even here, I think generative AI is really coming in handy where when an inquiry comes in, going and finding information, even potentially drafting a response is now all handled through generative AI models. And the human is validating to make sure of the accuracy, because today, I think the regulator also needs to be comfortable that this too can be automated. I don't see it. That day is also not too far, in my opinion, where truly these models can completely on their own respond to a customer.
Well, that is something to write home about. But, we have a lot more to talk about the use of your technologies here. But if you to take a very short break, don't go anywhere. We're back in just a moment.
AWS and CNBC TV18.com present Leading in the Digital Era. AWS and CNBC TV18.com present Leading in the Digital Era.
Welcome back. You're watching our special show. AWS and CNBC TV18.com present Leading in the Digital Era. And we have with us Ramesh from HDFC Bank and Kiran from AWS talking to us about rewriting the legacy for financial services in India. Ramesh and Kiran, thanks very much for staying back. Ramesh, talk to us about AI and ML. These technologies have been touted as big game changers. Have you seen real gains in operational efficiency in customer service because of the use of it?
AI ML has been there for very long, actually. If you look at it, banks have been using it for time immemorial. HDFC Bank, for example, today has more than 350, 400 models, actually, which are AI ML models, largely deployed in credit risk management areas. In fact, even today, our bot, if you call our call centers, it's actually on a AI ML model. And there is very, very, I would say, ingrained value in AI ML. We can't kind of ignore that. And the way we look at it is very interesting. We kind of see AI ML as the left side of the brain, where when you're looking at time series probability, prediction kind of problems, you will need AI ML, trained, supervised, well-trained models. And when it comes to narrative, and creative efforts, the right brain, then you look at Gen AI as possibly the kind of use cases that you want to look at.
That's quite an interesting way to put it. But when you're looking at modernizing legacy systems, what sort of challenges have you faced for our viewers in the banking space that may be watching? What should they do with the left and right sides of the brain? What measures should they put in place?
Yeah, I think much before the AI and Gen AI, you need foundational thought process. And one of the biggest things that we have done in the last 4.5, 5 years is that I think you have to rethink your architecture. And I've said this in many forums, actually, that banking architecture lags behind the big tech or fintech or the commerce architecture. And why? Because we've been prisoners of traditional thought process. So some of the stuff that we kind of look at from legacy to modern architecture is kind of rests on architectural thinking. API is a very key aspect. You really need headless APIs. I keep saying that because a lot of times I see APIs like the electrical wires in Chandni Chowk actually. Everybody kind of, wiring. And that's how we've kind of looked at our core system. So you need a middle switchboard which is orchestrating the APIs. Data has to be looked very different. Data is not a passive thing. Data is now real time. When a particular event hits a core banking, you should know instantly that particular event. So these are the thought processes. In fact, we have a very interesting strategy called onion ring strategy, which we use to say how do we move from left to right. We call this a shift right strategy. And I've kind of spoken about it quite a lot. So the thought process around core, API, data, and microservices architecture coupled with cloud and GenAI will probably be the, I would say, path for modernization from legacy to, to the new architecture.
Well, that's very well put. But, Kiran, he was talking about how fintechs have this, the faster ecosystem, the technology, which, some of the legacy players perhaps should adopt. What the fintechs don't have is scale, and that's what they aspire to do. How are you at AWS helping them do that?
We have a lot of programs to help these fintechs start off and eventually get to the unicorn status. But we have programs like AWS Activate, which really helps them get off the ground. Right? We help them give credits so that they can literally at sometimes no upfront cost get going with some technical perspectives, architectures, as well as we help them with some business ideas as well. We connect them with VCs. We connect them with enterprises because really now it is about the enterprises and fintechs collaborating, because if you remember a few years ago, it was always thought as fintechs being only right. But I think now everybody has come to terms that it's really truly a collaboration that is really winning for the customer.
What's very critical to moving to this architecture and staying agile is your talent. What are you at HDFC Bank doing to ensure that you're able to upgrade, upskill your talent through these business cycles with the ever-evolving technology?
I think what is difficult is to nurture, retain, and upskill the talent. We've been very focused on the run guys. How do we upskill them? We do a lot of, in fact, we just recently did a very interesting hackathon of business users using GenAI, how they can create solutions in partnership with AWS. We've done women hackathon, where we have had people from business users actually coming and putting solutions together. That's one part of this. So how do you get the existing legacy teams to upskill, reskill? At the same time, you have to get a lot of new talent, which is not banking talent. This is absolutely high-class engineering talent. And I believe that 150 to 200 people shop is far more efficient than 1,000 people centralized IT. And we have to keep that in mind. So you have to spawn these small startups, put the product, put the engineering, put the compliance, all of them together into one, I wouldn't say physical location, but into one pod. And then you see the magic happening. And once you do that, we're also kind of been very focused around how do we, look at the overall compensation structure, how do we kind of nurture the talent, and we've done some really good things. The only way is, like I say, use the microservices architecture to create these small startups within your own organization. That's probably the only
Kiran, is that the approach you suggest when you speak to your clients? I mean, skill gap is a big question mark, and like he said, that's been one of the biggest challenges. So how do you help financial institutions upskill their talent?
We've trained over 5.9 million people on cloud, and even generative AI. We have a lot of offerings, generative AI for beginners, and more importantly, we even have curated programs, generative AI for executives, because as all the shift is happening, what we're also recognizing is the shift is not just about the practitioners and technology being used, but there needs to be a big cultural shift within these organizations.
Absolutely.
So start leveraging this and making those innovations. So I think, like Ramesh mentioned, we enable things like hackathons that we just recently did. Also, we enable something called culture of innovation, where we bring ideas on how we transformed ourselves, because we were not as Amazon the way we are today. We also went through a transformation, but thankfully we did it like 15 years ago. But we bring some of those. So we're really helping skilling, bringing skilled folks so that they're widely abundantly available for folks like Ramesh to use, but also helping with the cultural transformation within our customer organizations.
All right. Since we're coming to the end of this conversation, a quick final thought from the both of you on what you see as, the biggest potential game changer in terms of emerging technologies that will reshape the way we know financial services today.
I think GenAI is here. There is no doubt about it. It is as big as probably what internet did to us many years back. But I think it also will bring its own set of challenges. And the key is to harness the technology in ensuring that there is an overall ecosystem upliftment rather than kind of looking at it from individual lens of corporate gains, so to say. I think that is the key navigation we have to do. How do we really kind of harness the technology and not make it kind of difficult in that sense.
Okay, Kiran, what do you think is the biggest game changer, and how will two institutions sort of distinguish themselves when everybody is sort of harnessing the same technology?
I think there's a lot of use cases that we are already seeing coming around the horizon, like invisible commerce or sometimes contactless commerce. I think some of the Amazon stores in the US, we've already enabled it, where just like the Digiyatra experience, you go in and you put your palm on a reader and you go inside the store, make a payment coming out, right? So it's going to become as ubiquitous so that nobody needs to remove an instrument, financial instrument, to actually pay for anything. As just an example.
Yeah.
But also with any new technology, I think the other thing, unfortunately, the other side of the equation is there will be potentially more sophisticated cybersecurity threats and such. So we are gearing up to support it. At the scale with which AWS operates, I think we are very well positioned to bring some of the innovations we are bringing in to help protect our customers to customers like Ramesh.
All right, we've run out of time, but it was a pleasure speaking with both of you, Ramesh and Kiran. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts so candidly, and I hope our audience has a lot to take away. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. On that note, we're going to wrap up this special show. Thanks very much for tuning in. Goodbye, and thank you for watching.
AWS and CNBC TV18.com present Leading in the Digital Era.